Madam President, I rise today to express concerns over two of the Democrats' nominees. There have been a number of questionable nominees put forth by this new administration, but these two nominees may be the two most radical nominees put forth. First, I'd like to talk about Vanita Gupta. Today, we are set to vote on discharging Vanita Gupta's nomination out of the Judiciary Committee because Ms. Gupta could not garner a majority vote in the committee on moving her nomination forward to the full Senate. The Judiciary Committee is deadlocked, and for good reason. This nominee's record is that of an extreme partisan ideologue. I can assuredly tell the American people Ms. Gupta is not a moderate, is not mainstream, but is rather an extreme political activist that the Democrats want to be the number 3 lawyer at the Department of Justice. When she testified before the Judiciary Committee last month, she consistently dodged questions. She wouldn't answer if she supported any restrictions whatsoever on abortion. She wouldn't answer not partial birth abortion, not anything. When it comes to the Second Amendment, I asked Ms. Gupta if she thought the Heller decision, the landmark decision upholding the individual right to keep and bear arms, if that decision was rightly decided. She refused to answer that question. For years, she has demonstrated a persistent hostility to religious liberty, such as when she defended the Obama administration's targeting and persecution of the Little Sisters of the Poor. Not too long ago, religious liberty was a bipartisan commitment in this body. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was introduced by then Representative Chuck Schumer, now the Senate Majority Leader. It passed the House unanimously. It passed the Senate 93-3 and was signed into law by Democratic President Bill Clinton. Sadly, today's Democrat Party has abandoned religious liberty. That is no longer a commitment. Instead, today's Democratic Party embraces extreme ideas like the Equality Act, which has just come out of the House of Representatives. A radical piece of legislation that, among other things, explicitly repeals major parts of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, designed to take away your religious liberty. Ms. Gupta has been a vocal defender of the misnamed Equality Act. She lobbied for its passage, a fact that she didn't disclose to the committee initially. When she was before the Judiciary Committee, I asked if she agreed with the provisions in the Equality Act that take away religious liberty protections from Americans. Again, Ms. Gupta refused to answer that question too. Ms. Gupta has demonstrated radical hostility to school choice, so much so that when she served in the Department of Justice during the Obama-Biden administration, she helped intervene in a case trying to kill a Louisiana school choice program, even though many of the African-American parents in Louisiana strongly supported and desperately needed that program. The federal court involved in this case even reprimanded the Department of Justice under her leadership for ineffective lawyering in this case. At the judiciary hearing of Ms. Gupta last month, I asked if she regretted using the Department of Justice to fight against the school choice program that was providing hope and opportunity to low-income minority kids in Louisiana. Again, she refused to provide a straightforward answer. And when it comes to defunding the police, it is here that Ms. Gupta is most radical. Last year, Ms. Gupta, in a written filing with this Senate, encouraged Congress to, quote, re-examine federal spending priorities and shrink the footprint of the police and criminal legal system in this country. She also encouraged reallocating resources, writing, quote, some people call it defunding the police. Other people call it divest, invest. But whatever you call it, if you care about mass incarceration, you have to care about skewed funding priorities. Now, these weren't Ms. Gupta's college writings. These weren't scribblings on a Post-it that she made somewhere. These statements were from last year, submitted to the United States Senate, and on their face and unequivocally advocate for defunding the police. There's no question on her record that Ms. Gupta is a hard-left partisan radical whose beliefs don't align with the majority of the American people. So why are Democrats so hell-bent on making sure she gets confirmed? Two reasons. Reason number one, headlines. Democrats care so deeply about looking good in the press, they continue to press through partisan bills and partisan activists for adulation by an adoring media. Reason two, today's Democrats are beholden to the far-left voices in their party, and they're fulfilling campaign promises that they made to the radical left. That's why they nominated Ms. Gupta. And that's why they broke Judiciary Committee rules to move forward her nomination. Rule 4 of the committee preserves the rights of minority members to speak before a vote. It only allows for stopping debate and bringing a matter to a vote if a majority of the committee agrees, including at least one member of the minority party. But the Democrats didn't have a majority. If they had tried to bring a matter to the vote under the rules, the vote would have failed. So instead, Chairman Durbin unilaterally silenced and stopped a member of the committee from speaking mid-sentence and forced a vote. He did so in flat-out violation of the rules, without even a pretense of a justification under the rules. The chairman knew that this was an abuse of power. Every Democrat on the committee knew it was abuse of power. It was an abuse of power that had never been done against them when Republicans had the gavel for 6 years. But today's Democrats are about power. So if the rules stand in the way, to heck with the rules, ignore them. That's what Senate Democrats did on the Judiciary Committee. I also want to talk about Kristen Clarke, who has been likewise nominated to a senior position at the Department of Justice. Like Ms. Gupta, Ms. Clarke's record is that of an extreme radical. Last year, she wrote an op-ed in Newsweek entitled, "I prosecuted police killings. Defund the police, but be strategic." In that op-ed, Ms. Clarke wrote about the protests that erupted last year and stated, quote, "Into that space has surged a unifying call from the Black Lives Matter movement. Defund the police." Now, like Ms. Gupta, she tried to run away from her record. At the prompting of Senate Democrats, at the prompting of Chairman Durbin, Ms. Clarke said, no, I don't support defunding the police. She said, it was just the headline of the article. I didn't write the headline. Ms. Gupta did the same thing. Both of them were instructed by their handlers, backpedal as quickly as possible from your repeated explicit advocacy in writing. So Ms. Clarke says she doesn't support defunding the police. Well, yesterday, when Ms. Clarke came before the Judiciary Committee, I asked her straightforward if she still thinks, quote, "defund the police is a unifying call." That's what she wrote. Not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, last year. She wouldn't answer the question. Instead, she just repeated her talking points. I do not support defunding the police. As I told Ms. Clarke yesterday, that claim is objectively ridiculous. She asserted she doesn't advocate cutting the funding of police, which on its face was a lie. That same op-ed she wrote in Newsweek, there are no less than 3 separate paragraphs that begin with the following words: "We must invest less in the police." 3 paragraphs in a row. Now, when you write 3 paragraphs that begin with, "We must invest less in the police," "We must invest less in the police," "We must invest less in the police," You don't get to come and say, I don't support investing less in the police. That is objectively absurd. But sadly, it's even worse. Not only is Ms. Clarke an extreme advocate for defunding the police, but she has a history of not just excusing, but celebrating murderers who have murdered police officers. It's been widely reported that in college, Ms. Clarke helped organize a conference with speakers who referred to convicted cop killers as political prisoners. This included Mumia Abu-Jabal, who murdered a Philadelphia police officer, and Assata Shakur, who was convicted of murdering a New Jersey state trooper, escaped from prison, and is on the FBI's most wanted list. Multiple speakers at the conference thanked Ms. Clarke by name for inviting them to speak. And now the Democrats want Ms. Clarke to head the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Madam President, I ask you the question that I asked Ms. Clarke yesterday. What's a police officer in Philadelphia watching the proceedings before this body? Or a police officer in New Jersey watching C-SPAN today? What are they supposed to think about the Democrats nominating someone to a senior position at the Department of Justice, knowing that this individual participated in a conference celebrating and lionizing cop killers who murdered a Philadelphia cop and murdered a New Jersey state trooper? How should a police officer today react to that news? There are numerous members of this body, Senate Democrats, who when they go home to their states, they like to tell their constituents they're not all that liberal. They're really quite reasonable. They're really quite moderate. Well, the nice thing about politics is that actions speak much more loudly than words. These two nominations, Ms. Gupta, which we have before us right now, and Ms. Clarke, which I expect we will have before us relatively soon, are two of the most radical nominees ever to be put forward. Indeed, you could call the two of them the radical twins. They are zealots, they're ideologues, and they both are leading advocates for abolishing the police. I say to my Democratic friends, this is a 50-50 Senate. That means just one of you, just one out of 50, could say, okay, enough is enough. How many Senate Democrats have gone home and said, I don't support abolishing the police? Quite a few Senate Democrats, I suspect, are telling their constituents back home that they don't support abolishing the police. Well, today you've got to vote. Because, Madam President, I tell you, if you as a senator vote to convict the radical twins, both of whom are among the leading advocates for abolishing the police, your constituents back home will know exactly where you stand on abolishing the police. You don't get to put radicals who want to abolish the police in the top positions of the Department of Justice and claim you oppose abolishing the police. You know, President Obama nominated for a senior position in the Department of Justice another lawyer who had celebrated and defended a cop killer, who had lionized a cop killer. And this body, in one of the few instances, decided that was too much, that was too far, and they were not going to confirm that lawyer. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party has changed. The Democratic Party today is radicalized. They hate Donald Trump. Now, I understand Donald Trump is a unique character. I understand that his existence and every word he uttered enraged Democrats. But they've emerged from 4 years of the Trump administration more radical than any majority party in this body ever has been. There are quite a few Democrats who, when they're at home, like to pretend otherwise. Today is a perfect opportunity to demonstrate that that pretense is not mere empty words. But in fact, if you don't support abolishing the police, then don't support abolishing the police. And if you don't support celebrating cop killers, then don't confirm people who have celebrated cop killers to senior positions in the U.S. Department of Justice. I yield the floor.